I know this video is 3 days behind, better late than never. We're going to go over the patch notes and the patch that happened on May 12th. I have it cut off on my screen so you can't see the date. The 20.2.2 patch, we're going to talk about the standard updates, the Battleground updates. We're going to skip the bug fixes because who cares? I'm going to go over my opinions, so it's going to be quick. And yeah, let's get into it.
Tazdingo! Yes!
So first we have refreshing spring water going from 4 cost to 5 cost. I personally don't think it does anything to the card. Yeah, you don't do it on turn 4 for free, but now you can do it on turn 5 for 1, and it's not much different, honestly. The one plus side of waiting a few days to do this video is I got to actually spend a few days looking at these changes in person and playing with them and whatnot, and I didn't see much of a change. Especially if they play Incanters Flow. It's like the change never happened, which is to be expected. But yeah. You can read the little dev comments at the bottom. They wanted us to be more about, they want to lower the frequency of gameplay sequencing. I don't think it changed anything. I think they could have left this at 4 and changed Incanters Flow. We would be a lot better off in terms of if they wanted to really hit the mage deck. Doing this doesn't show me they wanted to hit the mage deck, but people wanted them to hit the mage deck, so they just picked the best thing they could do without killing it and without making too many people mad. On to the next card. We got first day of school. Here's the thing about this buff, about this nerf. They changed it to a 1-drop, which is great. People were complaining about it being for 0, whatever. The other issue is, when they turned it into a 1-drop, now you get 3 guys instead of 2. Is this a nerf? I don't fucking think so. I really don't think so. And then if you read the dev comments, their excuse was they wanted to bump up to 1 because instead of making it fit a value role instead of it being efficient mana curve enabler. I don't think it matters. I think their reasoning could have been achieved if they just left it at 2 minions instead of buffing it to 3. Because not only did they bump up the cost, where it's like, oh cool, now the card's technically nerfed, but then they're like, no, we'll give you more stuff for it. So now your 1 mana is worth 3 creatures instead of the 2 that people thought we were going to have to deal with. So is this a nerf? Not in my eyes, but according to Blizzard, this is a nerf. And I've talked to some people online and they agree this is not a nerf. Next one, Hysteria going up to 4. Apparently I'm scrolling too far. Hysteria going up to 4. They wanted to make it about the turn that you're allowed to play this card, meaning that the person on the opposite end that's playing a creature-based strategy has more decision-making and more of a decision coming up to how far should I commit in this board now that we're hitting turn 4. And they wanted to bump it up so some of the weaker Warlock and Priest control cards and removal cards can actually matter a little bit more, instead of turn 3's removal card just being Hysteria. So I think this is a pretty fair nerf. I have a lot of background in a lot of other card games, and seeing something that's potentially like an entire board wipe for 4 is pretty common in most games. So I have no problem with this fitting the role, especially because Twisting Nether is an 8-drop, and that's the purest form of board wipe that we got. So I'm fine with this being at 4. I think this nerf is pretty it's pretty justified. The other ones are bullshit so far, but this one is so far fair. Now here's one that is very controversial, if it matters, if it doesn't matter. I think it matters a lot, and that's the Crab Rider nerf. Instead of it always having Wind Fury, Wind Fury's for the turn that you play it, do the battle cry. The reasoning for this is they want to make sure that it still has the same impact. I'll use the example of the Rush deck. When you play like Overlord and Conditioning and Parade Leader, and you buff him, and then the turn you play him, he's big, and then you Wind Fury into multiple dudes, possibly knocking out two creatures. What they're trying to do is make it so the pivotal point of when you play him is the same, and you have the same power on it, the turn he's played. But if he doesn't die after you do that, or like if they can't kill it right away, he's not just some obnoxious, high-powered menace that sits on the board with Wind Fury and like 4 buffs on him. I think it's fair. It's a common. I think it's fair. It's 2 mana. I think if they bumped up the mana cost, because they obviously can't change the rarity, like it's just a common in the set, so they would have to adjust it accordingly. I think if they bumped up the mana cost, it would make the card more fair if it kept Wind Fury, but I don't think people would play it as much because the fact that it's on a 2-drop is very good. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. I've noticed I've been forgetting that this change has happened. I've definitely forgotten. I've played a couple games of Rush and I keep trying to swing twice on like the 2nd turn or the 3rd turn Crab Rider's out, and I just forget. So I mean it's different, but I don't think it's the worst thing. I think it's gonna make Crab Rider more fair and not a card where, especially late game, someone can just drop it and be like, oh, I'm about to deal 8 damage to you for 2 mana on your next turn, so kill it. So by that means it's fair. But at the same time, I think having to counteract a Rush Wind Fury for 2 mana that's buffed is pretty fine for the format because the person who's buffing it had to put resources into doing so. It's not just like something that got buffed in their hand or is buffed based on mana crystals. So I think the change is fair. I should mention, I would like to hear everyone else's opinions. So you can talk about them in the comments. You can come talk about them in Twitch, on my Twitch chat. I don't know why I said in. You can go to my Discord and we can talk. Links for everything will be in the description. Obviously not the comments. The comments are just down there. I love to talk card games with people. I play and have played many card games, so I'm always down to talk to people. Hearthstone's just like the focus right now. We do a little bit of Magic right now too. Maybe we'll do other games if it's requested. We'll see. Anyway, let's get back to what we're here for. Mancrick's wife nerf, or the Enraged, who we get. Instead of making a 3/10, now it makes a 3/7. I think this is fine. The big reason for this is, like how they mention, there's a lot of mid-game removal between turns 4 and 6, where 10 mana or 10 health is too hard to hit, but 7 is fine. And I think that's totally fair. Why do they specify turns 4 through 6? Because they're assuming you're playing Mancrick on 3. And typically, I'm assuming they found out through data that 4 through 6 is the most common occurrence for when this card gets revealed and they make the token. I think making the token a lot more manageable is fine. Yeah, it's gonna suck super late game if you just don't find it for like 5 fucking turns. Because then a 3/10 is not gonna be a problem, but I think it's more about fixing it in the early turns than worrying about it being okay in the late turns. I think this is fair. I think the 3 health isn't going to make too much of a difference in terms of the overall power. I think it's just going to promote the person on the opposite side of the card to actually want to swing into it and kill it, because it'll be more manageable to kill a 3/7 instead of a 3/10. So I think that kind of makes the card a little bit worse because it's not going to just sit on the board for a few turns. But I don't know. I would argue that having my opponent fixate resources to it is a good reason to have it. I don't think it's going to ruin the playability of Mankrik at all. I think Mankrik's still going to get played almost as much. Maybe a few people stop playing it just out of, spite, but I think it's fine. I think that's all the nerfs. Yeah, so those were all the nerfs. Now we go through the buffs. The buffs will be really quick because they're less controversial and less, impacting. It's all been, minor bump. There's, only one or two buff, in my opinion, that's actually important. But again, I could be wrong. And feel free to tell me when I'm wrong about some things. Razorboar now has 3 power instead of 2. Fine. It just makes him stronger. There's not much to say about this. We have Dark Inquisitor. This one's pretty big. I don't know how much Dark Inquisitor is played, but Dark Inquisitor now, instead of reducing the cost of all corrupt cards in your deck, he reduces the cost of all the corrupt cards and the corrupted cards. So originally, it was only cards that weren't corrupt, which was fine. But what if you get this super late game and then he was irrelevant because all the good cards in your hand, let's say Strongman, or I'm trying to think of some or Life. What's that card? Oh, Insight. That's the card name. Insight. Some really good corrupt cards are corrupted. Now they're not getting reduced. Well, Strongman you don't have to get reduced, but still. Now it actually affects corrupted cards. Pretty good. I think this makes it more about the corrupt mechanic as a whole. And not just, let's make it a little bit more fair and only buff one side, reduce the cost of pre-corrupted versus post-corrupted. I think doing this makes it about the corrupt idea as a whole, and you're not just not corrupting cards on purpose so you can reduce their cost. And I think this makes it better for the cost of a legendary. I think it's fair. I think this is fine. Unbound Elemental, 3 attack instead of 2. And all these +1 buffs, we see them all the time. They're always we're gonna give someone +1 attack or +1 health. We see it a lot. I think they're fine. So this goes up to 3. Tidal Surge went down to a 3-drop, which is great. I don't know how often people are playing Tidal Surge. I only really play it when I discover it off of other cards. But I mean, it gives Shaman some more 3-mana removal, so that's fine. Lily Pad Lurker gets an entire +1/+1 buff. Fine. Again, it's okay. None of these are yeah, this is obviously impactful because everything's stronger, but they're not as big of a deal as the nerfs. And that's the problem with buffs, is that there's not many buffs usually that are as big of a deal as the nerfs. Fiendish Circle goes down a cost. I don't know who's playing Fiendish Circle, so who cares? Deck of Chaos goes down a cost. Again, fine. Whirling Combatant goes from a 2/6 to a 3/6. Fine. Shield Maiden goes down to a 5-drop. So now it's a 5/5. Now it's 5/5 for 5. That gives you 5 armor. I think that just makes more sense. Here's one of the big ones: is N'Zoth. This is actually the last one. N'Zoth is now a 9-drop instead of a 10-drop. This is a pretty big deal. I will be posting in a few days me playing a N'Zoth deck, and it'll showcase just how big of a deal this change is. The things you can do now that it's a 9-drop are insane. The difference between 9 and 10 in this game, for some reason, is huge. So yeah, surprise, surprise, the 2 legendary buffs are the ones that matter the most. Everything else is just okay. Now that we're done with Constructed, though, our standard, we're going to talk about Battlegrounds. over on my Twitch, I do a lot of Battlegrounds runs. We are currently doing a challenge of trying to get first place with every hero in Battlegrounds. We have like maybe 5 done. There's an entire Google Sheets, like an Excel sheet that's just charted out. I didn't add the 4 new guys yet that came out with the Quillbore update because I've been lazy with it, but that's fine. That list, I couldn't think of the word list real quick. That list is over in our Discord, or the link to it's in our Discord, and I usually put it, I'm pretty sure there's a command in chat too for Twitch. If there's not, I'll fix that. But recently we've had the Quillbores, and they have been really strong. They've been doing a lot of damage. They because they're new, they don't cycle out like all the other ones do, where there's a chance you might not see dragons, or you might not see pirates in a run, or mechs. So everyone's been drafting them, and they were really strong. So strong that I think I have not personally, and I have not seen anyone who attempted to, draft. I'll use the phrase draft when like building the warband. I've not seen someone try to draft Quillbores and not get top 4. Which in the game's eyes, top 4 is a win, so that's kind of a big deal. So they decided, fine, we fucked up, we're gonna nerf basically all the good ones. Other than that, Baron's Blacksmith will be removed from the minion pool. I don't know why. I'm assuming he was just really good with Quillbores because he's the frenzy guy that gives everyone +2/+2. They removed him, whatever. I didn't really care for him anyway. We're gonna go over all the Battlegrounds nerfs real quick. Some of them are not as important as others. Surprise, surprise. Let's see what we get. Roadbore is now a 1-drop, or now is 1 power instead of 2. It makes it harder to get Frenzy off. That's fine, especially for a tier 2 minion. We got Prophet, now at 2 power. I don't think Prophet's that great, especially like mid-game. He's not that great. So I don't care that he got bumped down. I'm pretty sure this was like the least impactful one. Bannerbore is now at 1 power, which is also fine. You're not playing him to attack. You're playing him because he gives the adjacent Quillbores a blood gem, and that's what's important. But yeah, make him weaker. Whatever. Downfall. Bristleback's a big deal. The first blood gem that gets played on him gives him +2 instead of +3. So now blood gems, the first blood gem on him only gives him 3 instead of 4. And then obviously the first blood gem, that's fine. That's the first blood gem each turn. So the first turn you do it, not that big of a difference. The second turn you do it, now you're missing out on 2 that he used to have, then 3 that he used to have, then 4. This card gets out of hand really quick. So I'm glad that they're trying to chill it out a little bit without just like killing him and being like the first blood gem gives him an extra +1/+1 where he would be completely kind of shit. Like you can draft him even like late game and he'll be good. Ground Shaker. The whole idea of Ground Shaker was you give him a blood gem and he gives everyone +2 attack just for combat. And the idea is you can invest your gems into him, but yet your whole team will still get buffed, which is pretty nice, especially if you're going like, if you're not even playing Quillbore, you can get some blood gems from drafting a few of them throughout the game, and then if you find a Ground Shaker late game, when you transition out of Quillbore, you can still just invest the blood gems into him, and he'll buff the team. Now he buffs everyone else but him, which is fine, because blood gems basically gave him +3/+1. Well, it was +3/+1 for the turn, but then after the turn it was only a +1/+1. And like that, those get a little out of hand. So giving it to everyone else but him means that he becomes a little bit more fair. Dynamic Duo is now at 4 health instead of 6. Being a 5/6 who gets +1/+1 buffs whenever blood gems are played on anyone other than him, it made him way too hard to kill. Especially if you like get the tier 4 really quick, or you get him off of a like off playing a golden card. Pretty insane. So the next one, we're going to talk about Bonker. Now Bonker, they hit his regular and his golden because of how important he is. So let's do the regular. So Bonker got a little bit weaker. His whole thing is when he has Wind Fury, whenever he attacks, you get a blood gem. So ideally, assuming he dies after both hits, you get 2 blood gems a turn from him attacking. Maybe you get more because he survives. So his golden, because the rule with goldens is you take the effect of 2 of them and you mash them together and you basically just double the advantage. So the idea of the golden one, sorry, was he has Mega Wind Fury, and when he attacks, you get 2 blood gems in your hand. Which means if he survives all 4 hits, or if he goes through all 4 hits, you get 8 blood gems in your hand. And then we've already seen with like Dynamic Duo and Ground Shaker, what happens when you get 8 blood gems a turn is you can just funnel them into, like, let's say Ground Shaker, and he'll give the entire board plus 16 plus 16. That's insane. And then Dynamic Duo will give himself personal buffs. You give one to Bristleback, and he would get plus 3 at the time. So now, they just say after he attacks, you gain a blood gem. So now he'll gain 4 blood gems instead of 6. Or 4 instead of 8, my bad. And now he's also at 6 instead of 8. But that's not surprising because they bumped him down. So of course we're going to double the stats. Why would they make him 8 again? This is huge. This makes Bonker still good. I think still getting 4 blood gems a turn, especially when you can like invest them back into him to help him guarantee he gets all 4, is very strong. But he's not game-breaking anymore. I think drafting a golden Bonker as quickly as possible was such a big deal at the time. Back when pre-patch, such a big deal. There were so many games where I tried to craft Quillbores, and because I didn't get Bonker, I would just fall behind and lose. Or because I didn't get Golden Bonker quicker than my opponents did, who also did Quillbore, they would just beat me because the blood gem difference is so massive. And the whole point of them is to use blood gems and to generate all this value and card advantage from blood gems. So a dude who can give them almost a handful of blood gems every turn is insane. So yeah, Bonker's the big one. I'm so glad that it's done. I'm so glad that this will hopefully oppress the Quillbores. We'll see. I've been seeing a lot less of them, thank God. And when I do, they're still powerful, but there's a lot more effort. They don't get powerful till late game, which is understandable. They used to be really strong in the mid game, and then that person just rides the wave until they can get like the perfect board. So yeah, thank God they nerfed Bonker. I will not miss old Bonker whatsoever. And then we got Chargla, who at the end of your turn he used to play a blood gem on everyone. Now he does it on everyone else but himself, and they made him a lot weaker. I think him giving it to all other friendlies is fine. I don't think they had to knock him down so hard, though. He's a tier 6 minion. Why'd they make him a 4/4? Why'd they make him so weak? Well, partially it's because he gives 6 blood gems on the board since he doesn't give himself anymore. But I think we could have left him at like 5/5. That would have been fair. This nerf is fine. It's not... I don't want to say it's not game-changing, because it definitely is. But Chargla is definitely really powerful. It's your tier 6. It's like the one you want to get. Chargla just giving everyone blood gems was really strong. Giving himself blood gems means you never had to actually invest into him, because he'll always just give it to himself. And you never had to invest into some of the other Quillbores that didn't matter about you funneling a bunch into them, because Chargla will just give it to them. And he still does that, so I think it's a fine enough nerf. I think we should just made him a little bit stronger, like keep him at 5 or 6. I think bumping him down to 4/4 just made him too weak for how late in the game you have to wait for him. And I'm pretty sure that's it. Some treasure pool stuff for duels, some bug fixes, some mana crystals. So I'll leave that up on screen while I say thank you for watching. Appreciate it. If you want to see more stuff like this where I go over patch notes and go over ban lists and opinion-based stuff, like, let me know. Like the video. I wasn't just saying like in a sentence, obviously, but let me know. I'm even willing to do this stuff live. I've done it a few times with some Magic-related content. But yeah, I like doing this stuff. It's fine. I sit down for like 30 minutes or so and I talk my opinion a little bit. Starts a conversation. I'm always down to talk to people. I didn't even know that this one was actually a thing. I don't really play Vulcan, that's why. Alright, anyway. Yeah, thanks for watching. I'll do the YouTuber thing and say like, comment, and subscribe. And follow me on Twitch. All the links will be in the description. Join us on Discord. I'm really trying to grow that Discord to be a community for card game players to just come together, hang out. And people who just like my streams, so even just regular gamers. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Adios.
Ja, man!